Hello Raptors fans! In last week's episode, I exposed you to some of the worst Raptors trade proposals that I was able to track down on the internet. Today we're going to do a 180 and try and find the best trades involving the Raptors. Remember to like and subscribe for weekly Raptors content. Let's jump in. Before I get started, I think I should mention that I found these trades on a website called TradeNBA.com. TradeNBA's trade machine that evaluates the legality of trades under the CBA is very useful. And also the ability to add picks and free agents to deals and then post the trades for other people to see is a feature that I haven't seen on other sites. The people coming up with the trades I'm about to mention have done a good job, so I'll leave the link to the trades in the description so you can visit and leave comments on them if you like. Another note is that I'm going to try not to do a reverse of what I did last episode, which is to post trades that are completely lopsided in the Raptors' favor. I think that would just be a waste of time, as while it is the case that occasionally those trades do happen, and our upper management is very skilled at making trades, it's just not worth the time thinking about things that are that far-fetched or incredibly one-sided. Let's stick to things that I think might work out for both teams. I'll start with deals that I'm more on the fence about and work my way down to deals that I think help the Raptors the most. Let's start off the video with a trade that I'm the most on the fence about. This is probably one of the most interesting trades as it involves the biggest changes for the teams involved. The trade is Pascal Siakam and Doug McDermott going to the Rockets, PJ Tucker and Westbrook and a second rounder going to the Pacers, and the Raptors getting Miles Turner and PJ Warren. I think your feelings about this deal are 100% predicated on how you feel about Pascal Siakam. If you feel like Pascal's poor performance in Orlando was a fluke, and he'll be back to his all-star ways next season, you'll probably dislike this trade. If you think Pascal's contract is too big, and his play in Orlando is indicative of what he's going to be for the rest of his career, you'll probably be in favor of going forward with it. To me, I lean more toward the first camp. But I also don't think that this is that bad of a trade for Toronto, even though I think Pascal is going to bounce back. TJ Warren has improved his stock around the league considerably in the bubble, as he showed that he is a strong scorer with a good all-around game. Miles Turner is also pretty fascinating from a fit perspective for the Raptors. He's young, locked into a good contract, and is a 3-and-D center who fits the modern NBA to a T. And center is a position of need for the Raptors to fill this offseason. Miles is only 23 and TJ is only 26, so they both could be part of Toronto's long-term plans. If I were the Pacers, I would simply cut the Rockets out of the deal completely. If I were them, I would rather have Siakam to pair with Brogdon and Sabonis, as he fits them better than Westbrook and he's around the same age as those two as well. Personally, I would probably lean towards not doing this deal, but if the Raptors wanted to move on from Siakam, this could be a direction they could go. Let's take a look at the next trade. This one involves Norman Powell, who will be featured on this list quite a few times, leaving with a first-round pick for Kelly Olynyk and Kendrick Nunn. Firstly, let's take the pick out of the equation. Norm's value is high enough to net both of these players, and he's a good fit for the Heat's roster. I'm also a bit on the fence about this deal because while Norm is a good trade chip, he's also not the worst fit for the Raptors roster either. He might simply bring more value to the team than these players. On the pro trade side, this is a pretty good return for the Raptors. Kelly Olynyk, while not a good defender, is a smart player who is one of the best shooters in the league at the big position, and he can facilitate the offense with his passing. His $14 million contract comes off the books next season as well, meaning the Raptors could free up some space for a big-name free agent. As for Kendrick Nunn, he's an undrafted rookie, plucked from obscurity by the Miami Heat, and he had a solid rookie campaign where he scored 15 points per game. Now, I think Nunn is a tad overrated as his defense is suspect and he's already 25, but if the Raptors are planning on jettisoning Terrence Davis over the allegations he's facing, Nunn would be a solid prospect to fill Davis's minutes off the bench. He's also a restricted free agent next offseason, meaning that the Raptors would have control over him should he live up to expectations. Again, this is all about fit and the other plans the Raptors have. If the center position is proving difficult to fill, This could be an option for the Raptors to consider. Now let's get into the deals that I think I would actually do if I were the Raptors. In this deal, the Raptors see Norman Powell and Patrick McCaw leave for Buddy Hield and the number 12 overall pick. Now listen, I know the Kings front office isn't very good, but let's take the pick out of this trade because I think it's a fair swap without it involved. Either Buddy Hield or Bogdan Bogdanovic is on the outs in Sacramento, and Hield would look pretty good in a Raptors jersey. Hield is a high-volume three-point shooter with great percentages, especially from the wings, an area of the court that is extremely helpful for a team's offensive spacing. Hield is locked into a 4-year, $24 million per year contract, which could be a blessing or a curse. If Hield meshes well in the Raptors' offense and provides a big wing-scoring punch the Raptors are looking for, that contract could be fantastic. If his limitations on defense and more one-dimensional skill set prove to be a bad fit in Toronto, the length of the contract could become a bit of an albatross. This would also cut them off from their pursuit of a big-name free agent in 2021, as it would put $24 million on the books next offseason. However, I think that Hield represents enough of an upgrade over Powell, and if the Raptors are looking to build on the Van Vliet, Anunoby, Siakam core, Hield could prove to be a very good complement to them offensively. Offense in the modern NBA is predicated on the ability to create and hit three-point shots, and Hield is one of the best in the league at doing that. The series against the Celtics was a contest that really showed that if everything else is equal, whoever gets hot from three wins the game. Now, here's another Powell deal, and I also like this one quite a bit. This deal sends out Powell, Patrick McCaw, and the 29th overall pick for the number 6 pick coming back from Atlanta. As I mentioned in my 5 NBA predictions video, Atlanta is looking to improve and find a backcourt mate for their star point guard Trae Young. Norman Powell checks a lot of the boxes for what you'd like to put next to him. A guy who can play defense, shoot, slash, and play off the ball. Powell's inconsistent ball handling skills would not be as much of a detriment to the Hawks, who want the ball in Trae's hands as much as possible. The Hawks are also tired of losing, and bringing in yet another young rookie who needs to figure things out is probably not something that they're really all that interested in. As for the Raptors, while this draft may not be filled with stars at the top, it's actually pretty deep. At 6 overall, you could probably find a very interesting prospect like Isaac Okoro, Obi Toppin, or Tyrese Halliburton. And with the Raptors' excellent player development system, they could help that prospect reach their potential. If Powell isn't in the cards long term, perhaps it's time to get something back for him, and I think that this trade could be a good way of doing that. The last trade here is one that I think is great for the Toronto Raptors. The Raptors, as you know, need a center. As I mentioned in my Rebuilding the Raptors video a few weeks ago, Serge Ibaka is probably the guy they are most likely to use to fill that void. This trade, however, is something that should interest the Raptors if it's at all possible. This trade sees the Atlanta Hawks receive Nikola Vucevic, the Magic would get Kevin Huerter, DeAndre Hunter, and the Raptors' 29th overall pick, and the Raptors would receive Clint Capela. For the Hawks, they would be able to add a guy who was an all-star 2 years ago and is a good fit with Trae Young and John Collins. As I mentioned earlier, they're looking to add proven players to help them get better, and Vucevic certainly fits that description. They currently have Clint Capela, but Vucevic gives their team a way higher ceiling if everything works out. For the Magic, they've been on the NBA treadmill for a full decade now, either barely missing or barely making the playoffs and then wiping out in the first round. Vucevic is talented, but he's someone who's not quite good enough to carry a team by himself, but also good enough to prevent a team from fully tanking. If you ask me, a full rebuild is probably the direction the Magic need to go in as a franchise. In exchange for Vucevic, they get some prospects in Kevin Huerter and 2019's disappointing 4th overall pick DeAndre Hunter, as well as the Raptors' 29th overall pick. None of these players and prospects project to turn into stars, but Huerter, Hunter, and the 29th pick overall have a decent chance of turning into strong NBA role players. And most importantly, this deal would create playing time for the Magic's 6th overall pick in 2018, center Mo Bamba, who's been rotting on the bench due to the coaching staff wanting to win games with Vucevic. With this deal, the Magic could properly tank and have plenty of time to try out their guys and see who's worth keeping. Lastly, and most importantly, the Raptors could turn their 29th overall pick into a proven NBA starting center, Clint Capela. Capela has his issues, one being that he can't stretch the floor at all, which is the reason that the Rockets gave him up in their misguided attempt to build the ultimate Mike D'Antoni team. But apart from that, he does everything you want from a center. He is among the best rim finishers in the league and presents a great lob target in the dunker spot. He anchors your defense and is an unbelievable rebounder, which is a weakness for the Raptors. Most importantly, he's also about the best possible value you could get for the 29th overall pick. If the 29th overall pick turned into Clint Capela a few years down the road, you'd be hailed as a genius. On top of all of that, he's only 25, so he could be the Raptors' starting center for years. There is a real downside though, which is that while this deal kind of makes sense on paper for all the teams involved, are the Raptors really offering up enough to be part of it? Couldn't another team with a higher draft pick slip into the trade ahead of the Raptors and scoop up Capela instead? Did I violate one of my rules stated at the beginning of the video, where I said that the Raptors wouldn't be on the receiving end of any lopsided trades? Possibly, but at the same time, I really like the idea behind this one, and if it was possible, I think this one would benefit the Raptors the most. Perhaps to make the deal a little bit more realistic, the Raptors could sweeten the pot with rookie Terrence Davis. Although the ethics of trading a player facing serious domestic violence allegations complicates things a lot, which is why I tended to avoid any trades with him involved on this list. In any case, these are the trades that I found that were the most interesting to me from a Raptors fan's perspective. Do you love any of them? Hate any of them? Hate or love all of them? Be sure to let me know in the comments. It's always good to hear different perspectives. Also, if you see any trades that you like, drop them in the comments too, or message me on Twitter at rapsreport, and I'll give you some feedback. Please like and subscribe to get weekly, high-quality Raptors videos. We're entering an exciting time for the NBA, so don't miss out on great Raptors content. And as always, thanks for tuning in to Raptors Report, your source for in-depth Raptors content.